Testing. Got it. Yeah, so we have the department kickoff coming up. Free pizza. I wish we'd kind of change that. If I'm honest, I feel like we should change that to like a veggie tray, maybe some fruit. Are you guys okay with that? I mean, mostly it's just pizza, right? Pizza with veggie tray. That's what we need. We just need to be healthy, right? You guys are students. You're probably not sleeping as much as you need to, and you need to be healthy. You need veggies. You need some broccoli. You need some carrots, cucumbers, little red peppers. Yeah, but pizza, that stuff. That's true. That's all true. Veggie pizzas. Okay, great. Please come. Taylor, 120 today. Should be fun, actually. Should be fun. They do give some swag, which is pretty cool. So if you're not there for the pizza, you could get some swag. Isn't that what it's called? Swag. They've given out blankets before. They've given out water bottles. Some pretty interesting stuff. One of the questions they usually ask is, what year was the school founded? 1888. See, you got it. You got this question. You can get free swag. And if you get it, you have to give it to me now. Just kidding. Okay, great. Let's see what's coming up in the class. Let's say a prayer and then we'll dive in. So we have, if I go back to the home page, we have our first assignment due today. How about that? Great. Create a web query. It's due tonight. On Tuesday, the Fibonacci sequence is due. If you haven't had a chance to look at that, you can take a look at that.
Question: Are these things I know already did the web query, but are they due
Yeah.
at the end of the day on those days, or are they due?
Oh yeah. Yeah, good question. The homeworks are due before class. Is that right? No, the homeworks are due at the end of the day.
A project due Saturday and Saturday.
And those are also due at the end of the day. So I think everything, all the due dates here are all like 11:59 p.m. I think for the whole course. I don't think there's anything that's not due other than, is that okay? I feel like that's
I don't know if it's a project.
the projects have the word project in front. Yeah,
Okay,
on this page. Tuesday, May 8th is the first project. Fallen Angel.
Okay, there.
Yep. And those, again, the projects will be more time. Hey Carter, plan for a little bit more time, not just a little bit, like much more time. You could probably do the homeworks in about 30 minutes, 45 maybe. Projects are probably an hour and a half to 2. Except, in fact, somebody asked me this. Who was it? Spencer asked me this the other day. And the thought that came to me was these projects down here, the last 2 projects, database modification, automating a web browser project, these are substantial projects. These are ones that you need to start at least 2 weeks before the due date. And part of the challenge with these projects is everybody has a little bit different code based on how you write the code and how you use ChatGPT or Copilot. And so to troubleshoot those projects, it takes a lot of time, right? I can't tell you specifically, I can't tell each individual person what's going to be the barrier for you on this project until you actually do it, right? Until you meet that, until you put in that time, it'll probably take you, I mean, some people it takes 2 or 3 hours before they hit a roadblock and they can't get through it. And you're like, Brother Chapman, I don't know what the next step is. And I can't tell you what that roadblock is until you put 2 or 3 hours in. You know what I mean? So it really, really behooves you to really start these projects out early. I had one student last semester who started this project like 6 weeks ahead of schedule, and he put in a lot of time. He was really concerned because this is actually the points on this is actually pretty high, and he nailed it. He nailed that project by the time it was due, and it really freed up his last couple of weeks of the semester as well. So okay, good questions. Yeah, so we have a project today. I mean, excuse me, we have a homework today, a homework on Tuesday, and then a project a week from today. So it's starting to pick up a little bit in terms of busyness, assignments, which is okay. Um, and then today we're going to work on built-in objects and collections. So we'll do a lot of collections. What's a collection of objects? And we'll go through some examples today. Great. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Are we good? Chris is available 10 to 5, Friday and Saturdays. Text or Teams or email. Okay, great. Let's see. Let's ask somebody to offer a prayer for us. Who'd like to offer a prayer? Can you volunteer? Andrea. Thanks, Andrea. Appreciate it. Amen. Thanks very much. Okay, great. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into today's file. Oh wait, I was going to do Fibonacci. Should we do? Can I do a quick preview on Fibonacci real fast? Jump into that. Is that okay? Before we get into today's file, let me jump into the Fibonacci. So this is again, I just clicked on the Fibonacci sequence assignment here. It takes me to this page, which is still Canvas. And then I'll click on this load in a new window. This will take me to the textbook file. So I will download this textbook file. And let's see. Oh, I already did. Save this here. As we remember, when we download these files, because they're XLSM files, I have to go into my Windows Explorer, right-click on the file, do Properties, and there's an Unblock option here. And so this is something we're just going to have to get used to, is unblocking these files when we download them, so we can actually open them up. So I'll unblock my file here from the properties. Correct. Yeah, so I haven't opened up the file yet. I just went to this folder where the file's at, right-clicked on the file, went to properties, and then I'm going to click on unblock, and then I'm going to click on OK. And that's going to allow me to open it up, right? So, okay, I've downloaded it, I've unblocked it. Now I'm going to open up the file, and I'm going to enable content. Macros have been disabled by default. Again, I think that really goes to this idea that macros are really powerful, right? All the security on macros, on macro-enabled files, is because they're really, really powerful, which is a cool thing. It does provide some challenges, but we can enable the content here. If I wanted to, in fact, let me show you how to do this in case you want to. Because I'm going to be using my downloads file folder here a lot, I can add this folder to a safe, what's it called? If I go to File, Options, and if I go to Trust Center, that's what it is. And if I open up my Trust Center, I can add my downloads folder to the Trust Center. If I go to Trusted Locations, Add New Location, and then I browse, this is like 15 links here. I can add my downloads folder and all subfolders to my trusted locations, right? So again, this was File Options, and then go to the Trust Center, and then click on Trusted Locations, and then I added my downloads folder. What that's going to do is that's just going to allow me to not have to enable macros every time I open a file. It's going to say, oh, this is in a trusted location. So I'll let you open macros, which is kind of nice. Downloads folder is probably not the best one to use. I'm just going to use that on this computer because it just makes it accessible for me. The other thing that I'll mention here is that sometimes students are using OneDrive as their place to store files. It turns out that VBA and OneDrive do not get along very well. So if you've tried to save a file and it doesn't work, you're trying to open a file and you're trying to run code and it doesn't work, you might want to consider moving your folder file outside of the OneDrive and making a separate folder. So if you run into that, we can address that there. Okay, great. So I've added the trusted center or the folder to the trusted location, and let's go back to this file. So I'll enable the content, and I've got Atlas installed. Raise your hand if you still have Atlas installed. It's still there. Spencer's got to reinstall. Anybody not have? Does anybody besides Spencer not have Atlas tab on their Excel? Okay, great. I'm going to go to the instruction sheet. So I'm still in the Fibonacci sequence file. I'll open up the instruction sheet that's on the Atlas tab. And this is the assignment. Okay. The assignment has a total of 10 points. The grader will rely on the answer being in a specific location. So we have to be specific about where the answer is going to be put in our spreadsheet. So we have to follow instructions precisely. So Leonardo Fibonacci was a 13th century Italian mathematician, considered by many to be the most talented Western mathematician of the Middle Ages. We have him to thank for moving the Western world from Roman numerals to the Arabic numerals we use today. The following sequence is named for him, and there's a number sequence here. This sequence is called the Fibonacci sequence, and any numbers in the sequence are called Fibonacci numbers. The sequence is calculated as follows. The first two numbers are given. So the first two, 0 and 1, are given. Each subsequent number is the sum of the preceding two. So the third number is the sum of 0 and 1. The fourth is the sum of 1 and 1. The fifth is the sum of 1 and 2. Okay, so that's the Fibonacci sequence. Here are the tasks, 3 tasks for this assignment. The first task is, in this workbook, you'll find a module named solution. Okay, let's bring that up. So if I go back to my spreadsheet, how do I get to my, that's the one we were just on. How do I get to my code? Developer, Visual Basic, beautiful. I can also do Alt F11, right? There's a little shortcut if I wanted to, Alt F11. That brings it up as well. And let's see, wait, there's nothing here. Does anybody else have nothing in their code? Wait a minute. Okay, so it's hidden. It's not hidden on purpose, but over on the left, it's in modules, right? There's a little folder here in modules. Open up that modules folder, and there is the solution right there. So this is the solution module in your project window. If you don't have the project window, you can come up to View, Project Window, and that'll show the project window right here. And this is where you need to put your solution in this module, right? So you don't need to insert another module. You need to write the code for this assignment inside of this right here, inside this sub right here. Okay, great. So we found that. Let's see what's next. If I go back to the instruction sheet, it says there's a module named solution. We found it with a sub procedure named make Fibonacci. Okay, so that's the name of the sub procedure. I'm going to go back to my code. Okay, sure enough, this is the one. This is the name of this sub procedure. Make Fibonacci. Okay, so far so good. This sub procedure is executed when the user clicks the Fibonacci sequence button on the assignment tab. Okay, let's go back there. So if I go back to my assignment tab, there's a button right here, Fibonacci sequence. And what it says is it's going to execute the code in this sub when I push this button. So let's push it. Ready? Push. Execute. Okay, wait a minute. Solution not yet written. To complete this assignment, open the editor, modify the sub procedure in the solution module. Okay, great. And basically what that is this message box right there. So if I put a little comment, what do you call it? An apostrophe right there. That's going to be a comment. It's going to comment out that line, right? I could put another message box in here that says hello. And if I push this Fibonacci sequence button, it's going to give me a message box, hello world. So that's all that is just a little message box there telling me, I don't see any code here, so I'm not running anything except a message box. But this is where you're going to write your code. Okay, so far so good. This says modify this sub procedure so that the first 50 Fibonacci numbers, okay, here's that sequence. That even doesn't have the first 50, it's more than that. The first 50 numbers are displayed starting from the active cell and going down, one number per cell. Your solution should write values, not formulas, to the cell. Okay, there's two big things there. One is start in the active cell. So if I'm over here, and run the code, it goes down from here. If I'm over here, this is the active cell, goes down from here. If I'm here, this is the active cell, right? Wherever the active cell is. And the other thing is write values, not formulas to the cell. So what we're not doing is we're not saying, we're not putting a formula in this cell to add the two previous cells together. We're just putting the values in. So we're going to have to do the calculation in our code. Okay, basically that's the overall. Do your calculations in VBA. Don't write cells to formulas. Your code should not change which cell is active. Instead, just refer to the appropriate cells and write the numbers to them. Okay, so that's basically all the instructions that you need to do this assignment. What do you think? Can you do it? Questions? Concerns? Chris, any helps here? Oh, Trevor, please.
So, what kind of resources for that do you use?
Great. OpenAI, right? Open textbook, Open TA, Open professor, Open classmates. But you got to be the one typing, right? As long as you're the one typing, I think I'm okay with all that. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. Yeah, where do we start, Chris? I mean, you have like 30 seconds of good advice here.
Make sure that you know where you're starting and no hard. Yeah,
Nice.
0, 1, right? At least 2 rotations. Process the panel. Also, make sure like you're doing right here, right data. Why is that so effective?
Wow, brother Chris, you're hitting all the good ones. Man, you're generous, Chris.
What's that?
That's a big one. The data type here is a big one. Remember how we talked about data types? Well, we didn't talk in this class. It was in the video last week. It turns out that the integer data type, that's a great lead in, Chris. I appreciate that. That's great, by the way. Thank you. Chris is bringing up some good things, so let's talk about them. The integer data type, if I wanted to create a variable right here, dim first num as integer, the integer data type has certain boundaries. What's the highest number you can do with an integer type? Or lowest? Highest or lowest? Anybody remember? No, not integer. Byte was 0 to 255. Integer was like negative 32,765 to positive 32,766 or 5. You will need to remember that for the midterm, by the way. Not the actual number, but like negative or positive 32,000 is sufficient, right? For an integer data type. It turns out that you'll find, I'll just give you another 30 seconds of, can I just give you another 30 seconds of, can I just provide you another 30 seconds of saving a whole bunch of time? if not more. If we just type this in for a minute, right? Just to get our arms and our minds around what this looks like, right? Um, this is what we're going to produce, right? And then I'm going to go down how many rows? 50 rows. So let's go down here. If I paste that in, this is basically what we're looking for as the end result, except for what? We're not going to have formulas. We're going to have just values in these cells, right? So again, no formulas. Don't think that because Brother Chapman's doing a formula here that this is the correct. No, that's not correct. You will not get this correct. But in terms of what it looks like, this is what we expect. And what do we see down here? Lo and behold, about right here, I mean, you don't have to go down very far. What is that row 25? Number 25? Not row, but number 25 in this sequence. You're already above 32,000. So if I were to write this code and say dim first number is integer, and by the way, we're going to do a second one, right? Chris was saying, hey, do your first and second numbers, right? At least those two. And you could even do another one. Let's do one more. Dim next num as, let's say integer for now, but we're going to come back and change that. Once we get to this number, you're going to get an error. It's like, well, I can't fit that number into that variable because the data type is not correct. You told me to only do up to 32,000, and now you're telling me to do 46,000. You're going to get an error, right? So the big question here, and I won't tell you what to do, but the next level up, you got to figure out what is that next data type up from integer to use for these numbers, right? So that you can get the number of spaces that you need. How far does it go up to? I don't. Let's see. What is that? That is 32 billion, 32.9 billion, or something like that. So that's a big number. And so we need to figure out what the correct data type is for these variables. Sound good? That's a pretty good start. I think that's helpful. Please.
The last number in the sequence. Last number.
There you go.
Oh.
Great. And there's some things that we're going to learn today that will help with this assignment. And there's probably some things that we're going to learn on Tuesday that are going to help with this assignment. So don't feel like you have to know how to do it all right this second, right? Again, the intent of the homework is for you to try it before coming to class so that you have a better sense of when we go through it in class, you'll understand it better. That's the real intent here. Please.
So chapter 6 and then covers the kind of stuff generally.
Yeah, right. So you can go back to this sheet and you can say, okay, if this assignment is due for chapter 14, then you can be pretty assured that there's going to be some kind of loop in this assignment, right? So here's chapter 14. Here's chapter 16. 16, I think generally there's some ideas, but mostly it's going to be the loops and probably, yeah, a collection of 16. We don't do collections, but there's some built-in objects that we'll use for this assignment. So today's examples and Tuesday's examples are going to help you figure out. So yeah, if you want to jump ahead with Fibonacci, I would say jump by reading the for loops in chapter 14, FOR, for loops. That'd be a great place to start. And it kind of builds on itself, right? We'll be using loops a lot. Loops is a really good thing. I feel like, if I'm honest, loops is one of those things that separates you from everybody else in the world who can record macros, because loops allows you to take VBA to the next level.
Like the do loop that we did on.
Yes, exactly. Do loop is one of those. Yeah. There's a do loop, a for loop, a do until, there's a while. And these loops we'll learn about in chapter 14. That's where you really separate yourself from BA215, from everybody who can record a macro. These loops start to get pretty powerful. Really good stuff. Okay, great. So that's Fibonacci. Yeah, if you guys want to try that, bring some questions on Tuesday. Let's see if we can answer some questions and maybe help you out a little bit more on Tuesday with that one. That's kind of a neat one to do. Okay, great. Let me close that one down and let's go now into our example for today. So if I open up today's topic, today we're going to be talking about built-in objects and collections. And am I recording? I think I'm recording, right? Pretty sure I'm recording. Yeah. Hello, hello. Yeah, I think I'm recording. Let's open this file. So let's start by opening up this air traffic passenger statistics file. I'm going to download this file and I'm going to save it in my downloads. And then just as always, I'm going to open it up and I am going to unblock it. So I'll go to my file explorer here. Here's my file that I downloaded. Go to properties, click on unblock, click OK, and we're going to open it up. Okay, so this is a file that has some data here on air traffic passenger statistics. And we're going to be using this file to help us today with these collections. There's some charts here. There's some data. There's two sheets. Let's see, where's my notes? Oh, yeah. And if we go to this other tab, this actually contains all of the data. So this is data from about 2005 to 2018. It has, this looks like July 2005. It's got different airlines with the airline code, the name, and then I think it has the gate, the passenger count for each of these, let's see, gates, is that what this is? By terminal, boarding area and terminal. And what it's doing is it's calculating kind of a summary of passenger statistics. US travelers, Mideast travelers, Canada, South America. Oh, interesting. Dropped off. So we're going to be using this one today. So let's see. Where do we start here? I'm going to pull open. We've unblocked. And then there's two characteristics of objects. What are the two characteristics of objects we talked about the first day? Yeah, very good. Method. What's a method? That you or you? Yeah, yeah, very good. That's exactly right. What it does. What's the other characteristic of an object? Nate, close. Yeah, that's a property. A value of the cell is a property of that object. Very good. I think that counts. Close enough. So there's two characteristics of objects. One's a property of an object and a method of an object. Method is something it does. Property is like an attribute of it. You know, what is how does Brother Chapman look like today? He looks good. Can Brother Chapman do jumping jacks? That would be the ready push-ups. You guys do push-ups? Anybody does push-ups here regularly? Nice. Branch, how many a day? 50 a day? That's not bad. Trevor?
Whenever I do like harvest,
Oh, nice. Wow, that's impressive. Spencer? I'm impressed. You guys sound great. That's great. About the same. You're what? Oh, you don't do them? Oh, you want to see it in action? Maybe. Maybe we should do push-ups instead of the database project. If you did 5,000 push-ups on one day, could you do 5,000? Maybe for extra credit. 5,000? 50 sets. Yeah, okay. I'll let you guys think about that. That sounds crazy. Okay, I'm going to pull open my Visual Basic here, and we're going to go to modules. Okay, there's no module here for this file, so I'm going to insert a module. So I'll come up here to Insert Module, and that will insert a module. And let's do some code here. Let's create a sub. So I'm going to type in sub, and let's do a sheet demo. Open and close parentheses, and then I'll hit enter. Notice how before I hit enter, it's still all black. When I hit enter, some of the color changes. The sub word changes to blue. That's like an operator with a recognized word by VBA. And then it automatically added the end sub to close off the sub. I'll add some spaces. I'll indent a little bit. And I'm going to add, let's see, how do we want to start here? Let's debug.print. Let's say, in terms of what we're doing, please, Trevor.
So, are you on with this? We're supposed to get that pull up. Like, look at the TV project.
That might be your project file or your homework file. Is that true? I just did insert module.
Oh, insert module.
Yeah. Yeah. Insert module.
Okay, there we go. Why did you do that?
Yeah, sub is the name of a sub procedure, and then this is the name of the sub that I'm creating. So that's like the name. And then this says any input that I'm sending into it goes in here, inside the parentheses. And for right now, I'm not sending it anything. I'm just starting it off. So yeah, that's pretty standard to do sub, and then the name, and then open and close parentheses. You could call it whatever. Yeah, there's certain things you can't use, like you can't use, and the textbook's pretty specific about this. In fact, I want to say there's a midterm question example on this, which is, what are the things you can't do for your sub name? You can't have spaces. Notice there's no space here. And there's general conventions to do, this is kind of my preference. I do a lowercase first word, uppercase second word, or third or fourth, just to help me read it a little bit easier. But yeah, good question. That's kind of what this is. There are some more conventions specifically in the textbook. I don't think you can have a number in the end. I just think about all of them. But yeah, please. This coding, yeah, good question. Sometimes some students will be like up here in the sheet. If I double click this sheet 1 here, notice my sub's gone. Or if I double click this sheet 5, there's nothing there. We want to make, at this point, we want to do all of the codes in our modules. There'll be a time later on in the course where we might do something in the sheet, but that's kind of a specialized case. Most of it, I think that's user forms. But most of the code we're going to do is in these modules. So I'll just click on module 1 here, and that's where you want your code to be. Yeah, good question. Yeah, great. Okay, so this is the sub. And let's just do a debug.print. What I want to do here is I want to calculate how many sheets we have. So we're talking about collections today. And a collection is just a group of objects. And a collection can be a group of sheets. So let's do this. Let's say debug.print. And that's a command that's going to print to my immediate window. Let's do debug.print. And let's do this workbook space, this workbook dot worksheets. So I'm saying this workbook is this file, right? The whole workbook is the file. If I do dot worksheets, I'm saying the worksheets collection. So there's a collection of worksheets. Every file has a collection of worksheets. Right now I have 2 worksheets in this file. I have an air traffic passenger statistic sheet and a charts sheet. So I have 2 sheets, but I want to do a count. So in every collection, one of the methods of the collection is a dot count. Notice when I do worksheets dot, this is the IntelliSense. There's all the These are all of the methods and properties of this collection. There's a whole bunch of things I can do. And all I want to do right now is just count. So I'll type in dot count, or I can select it from the list. And this is going to print the number, like the count of sheets in this workbook. How many should it print? Yeah, that's right. It should print two, because we have two sheets. So if I hit F5 or play, I'll put my cursor inside the sub so it knows this is what I want to run. Put my cursor somewhere inside. I'll click on this play button, or I can click F5 and nothing happens. Well, let's do a view immediate window. Let's pull up in our immediate window here. And there's the two right there. By the way, my immediate window is on the bottom. I kind of like to be it on the top. So I'm going to click and drag my blue bar and just raise this. I'm just going to raise it all the way up to the top. And that'll put that little window from the top to top. And that's where it printed it. So it debug.print. So debug.print says it's not printing to the Excel sheet anywhere. It's actually printing to just this window. That's it. And the purposes is to kind of debug, to try to figure out how to code this, to maybe identify problems. But debug.print is printing the two. There's two sheets there, right to that window. Question? That's it. Just to this immediate window. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, very good. Okay, great. Let's do this then. Let's add a sheet so we can count. Let's do this workbook dot worksheets dot add. And what that's going to do is that's going to add a sheet. So if I add, let's see, I said this should be this workbook dot worksheets dot add. If I run this now, it should add another sheet here, and it should change our number, okay? So I'll click inside of this sub, I'll click on play, and sure enough, it's added another sheet, and it says the count is now 3. And yeah, maybe we should run it a couple times. Should we run it how many times do you want to run it? You have 15 sheets. We could do that. Let's do this. Let's come down here. Let's do another debug.print. Let's print the name of the sheet here. Let's see. Let's print the name. So debug.print, we'll do active sheet. Just like there's an active cell, we talked about that. Let's print the active sheet, and then the dot name is the property of the active sheet. Notice, by the way, when we ran this before, when we added the sheet, which sheet became the active sheet? It was sheet 1, right? So usually when we add a sheet, that becomes the active sheet at this point. So let's run this again, and we should see what? It should add another worksheet, and it should change our number. So I'll click inside the sub, and I'll click on play, and it's added another sheet. I have a sheet 2, and it's printed the number of sheets, and it's printed the name of the active sheet. Question, Trevor?
Also, I just printed. I think I created 2.
Sure. Yep. Yep, that works.
So the numbers that are supposed to be added on.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's it. Good. So that's a good thing. That works out well. Spencer. Yeah.
For this, like the active sheet, but why didn't we have to follow a similar principle from last time, like this works like dot?
Yeah, good question. Because here we're talking about a particular collection of worksheets, and we're asking what the count is. So in order to get the count, we have to tell it what the collection is that we want to count it. Here we're just asking for a particular object. So what is one particular object? What is that active sheet? We could do this. We could also say, I think it's this workbook. Is it this workbook dot active sheet? Yeah. So this workbook, the object, like, there's kind of hierarchies here. This workbook is the object, and then within that object, there's the active sheet within that larger file workbook. Does that make sense? So we could say this workbook to be more specific. We don't always need to have that, especially if we just have one workbook that we're working with. It becomes kind of obvious. It's like, oh, you mean this workbook. But if you're working with multiple files, then, which we're going to do in just a minute, then this workbook becomes very helpful because you know which sheet you're talking about on which workbook, right? So yeah, in fact, we'll see that in just a minute. Great. So we've got two debugs. We've got the add. What else can we do here? Let's dim an object. So I'll come up here. I'm going to create an object, DIM. We're going to create an object. I'll call it WS for worksheet. I'll say dim this as an object. And the reason why I'm saying as an object, I'm telling Excel what kind of memory requirements I need for this object. What type is it going to be? And how much memory do I need? Right? All of that is embedded here in this text. I'm saying I want a new object. It's called WS. That's like it's a pointer in the memory. It's a location in memory. It's pointing to a worksheet. And I'm going to tell it which worksheet in just a second. But this is how we're creating this variable. And this, in case, is an object variable. A WS is our object. So if I create that here, I can come down here and I can say set WS is equal to the worksheet that I'm adding. So I can actually add a worksheet here. And I can set this new worksheet to be this object, WS. And it turns out that becomes pretty helpful. So no longer do I need to type this whole thing here. I can just use WS to refer to that new worksheet. So for example, I can come back down here and I can say, instead of active sheet, I can say debug.print ws.name. And it's referring to this sheet right here that I added. So let's run this again. If I run this again, let me delete my immediate window just so it makes it a little bit more clear. I've added another sheet. I've added sheet 4, and I printed that name by typing debug.printws.name. It recognizes that this new worksheet is a WS object, and I can refer to that object in my code down here. I now have 6 sheets, and the WS is the object of sheet 4. Okay, but what if we did this? So here's an interesting one. What if I say this workbook dot worksheets and in parentheses 1. So this is another way to refer to a specific worksheet in the workbook, which is using numbers, right? I can use the name here. I could do worksheets, what was it, charts? Something charts, yeah. I could use a name or I could use a number. Charts is not number 1, but I'll just use number 1 for this. Number 1 is my air traffic passenger statistics sheet. It turns out the numbers here are the order of these tabs. So if I were to reorder this, it would actually change the number here. You know, this number would refer to a different one based on the ordering of these tabs. So this workbook dot worksheets 1 dot activate. If I were to say activate this worksheet, it would actually go back to that worksheet and select that worksheet. So if I run this now, I've got my dim WS's object. I'm adding a sheet, making that new sheet my object. I'm printing the number of worksheets, the total number, and then I'm activating worksheet 1, which is going to be this. And what's going to print here? Is this going to print the name of the first sheet, ws.name, or is it going to print a different name? Who thinks this is going to print a sheet 1 right here? Chris is like, oh.
Just print it. Gonna print the new one. Yeah, it's still gonna print the new worksheet.
All right, let's try it. I'll run this. And it printed sheet 5, but wait a minute, air traffic passenger is selected. Yeah, very good. Excellent. So when we activate a sheet, that doesn't necessarily mean we're changing the reference to this object, right? Those are two different things. the object is still referenced to the new sheet up here. We haven't changed this. All we've changed is the one that's selected, and it still prints out that new sheet. For me, it was sheet 5. And now I've got 7 sheets. Okay, great. Let's do a little neighbor check. Neighbor, how am I doing? Tell your neighbor where you're at. Neighbor, I'm completely lost. Neighbor, I'm still thinking about dropping this class. I could get a W, but I think I'll still graduate. Have a little heart to heart with your neighbor. Now is the time. Trevor, who's your neighbor? Who's your neighbor?
I know it's you.
Yeah,
I like that.
describes me quite well. I
Yeah.
caused some problems at a park a few years back. I need to get fixed.
That's funny.
Yes, I will let you know about the TA, TA. I haven't found that email yet.
Oh, which email was it?
His email.
Oh, yeah, you got you. Perfect.
Also, going to go through and change all of that, all of the due dates for the project.
Oh,
on
perfect.
Saturday. But everyone needs to be the next. They're all doing from what I can tell on Thursday. You want them next Saturday or Saturday before?
Yeah, the following.
Oh, on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll push it out 2 days. So instead of Thursday, we'll just give it that. Instead of going,
Backwards.
yeah, we'll go add days to it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. Good. Great. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, let's see. We could also do this, right? We could do this workbook dot worksheets, and then I can do the name, like I mentioned this one, dot activate. So we can activate it multiple ways. We can refer to an item in the collection either by an index number, like a number 1, or by its name. Okay. Okay, great. Let's see. Question.
If the name wrong, like instead of the number, does it like?
Yeah. What if I said, what do I have, 7 sheets? What if I did like 9 in here?
Well, I'm talking like if it's part instead of part.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I think it is charts. Yeah, if I run this, so let me change this back to 1. What happens if I do this? Subscript out of range. And if I click on debug, it says, by the way, the error messages here are not some of the best error messages. Sometimes when you get an error message, you're like, I don't know what that means. Yeah, so what this is saying is the subscripts out of range. It's saying I can't find a worksheet named chart. It's not here. Kind of what that's saying. So you do get an error message because it doesn't recognize the name.
So then it's here or reliable.
Yeah, great question. Yes, absolutely. I would say yes, numbers over words, because somebody could come in here and change this. You can change this tab name, right? And that would wreck your code. There's an even better way to do it, which is by the code name. And I can't remember if we've read this in the book or not. I think it's coming up. Up here in this project window, there is the actual name of the tab name that you see, like air traffic passenger statistic. But right next to that is a code name, and this says sheet 1. And the only way to change this name is right here in VBA Excel, right, in this interface. So if you refer to a worksheet using this name, that's usually the best, actually. It's like basically hard coded. You can come in here, change it, or another coder can come in here and change it. But a user who's using this or doesn't know how to, they're not going to accidentally come in here and change this code name. So yeah, that makes a big difference. Okay, yeah, good questions. Great. Let's see. Now, by the way, see this yellow arrow? Because it produced because there was an error message, I'm in break mode right now. So it's run to this point and it's stopped running, and it's not going to run until I fix the error. So I could fix the error here, and then I could click on play, and it would keep running. And now it's done. So break mode's pretty cool. We'll talk about that some more too. Okay, great. Question, please. Oh, to reference the code name instead of that name? Yeah, that's a great question. Let's see. I think you can just do the name itself. Is that right? You can refer to it like this. Sheet one, let's see, capital S, I guess. Sheet one dot, and then see how if I do sheet one all by itself, just like it's printed up here, it recognizes that sheet and it gives me all of the methods and the properties of sheet one object. Yeah. So I could do cells. I could do dot val. Let's see, cells one dot value is equal to Trevor, and then I have to put that in quotes. And what I'm saying is take the first cell in sheet one and put Trevor into that cell, right? So if I run this, it's done all my counts. It's added a sheet. And sheet one, which one's sheet one? It's air traffic passenger statistic. It's put Trevor in that first cell. So to answer, this is a surprise. Sorry, a long way to answer your question. I'm just going to use that code name right there, sheet one. Yeah, that's the way to do it. We'll come back to that as well. We'll see that a lot in the class too. Okay, great. What's next? Okay, so we've done a lot of collections here with the worksheet. We've got a lot of sheets open now, right? We can dim. Let's do one more thing here. Instead of dimming WS as an object, let me comment that out. And let's add this WS as a worksheet object. So I can do dim WS as worksheet. And now we're saying this WS is a worksheet object. Up here, it was like a basic object, a generic object. It wasn't constrained by anything. Once we do this as a worksheet specifically, it's a specific type of object. It's like more constrained, right? We know that it's a worksheet object. And we'll be seeing a whole bunch of objects in the future. So let's do this. Maybe, I think this is the last one, and then we'll do another sub. Let's do a loop. And what we'll do is we'll print all of the sheet names in our debug.print for the entire number of sheets that we have. So let's go down here to underneath the debug.print WS name. Let's do a do loop. I'll start with do, and here's my loop. And one of the things that we learned last time in a do loops is those do loops can go forever. And so I'm going to insert a command here that allows us to pause our loop in a do loop. And it's called do events. And that allows us to pause it. So if we do a do loop and we want to pause it or get out of it, the do events will allow us to do that. But let's do a loop. Inside of this loop, what we'll do is we'll do a debug.print, and we'll print the number of the sheet, and let's print the name of the sheet. So let's do this workbook.worksheets. We'll use X as the number, and we'll say dot name. Give me the name of that workbook. And so what we need to do here, though, is we need to create an X variable. So I'll come back up here to the top, dim X as integer. And that's going to allow us to use X as a variable here. And now we'll print the number and the name of the sheet. It's going to use X as a variable through the loop. So as the loop goes on, that X is going to change 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? To the number of sheet that we're at. So we've created X as an integer. We've added this loop. The last thing here is we need to increment X. X is equal to X, whatever it was, add 1 inside the loop. And now it's going to do a loop, and it's going to do this loop. Actually, it's going to do it forever because we haven't told it when to stop. But it's going to print out the number, and it's going to print out the name, and then it'll probably give you an error if you run it right now because you're going to run out of sheets. So let's say do until. Let's do this loop until X is greater than let's see, where's my greater than? X is greater than this workbook dot worksheets dot count. So in this case, we're identifying how many worksheets there are as part of our until statement. We're only going to do this until X is greater than our count. So we're not going to do it if it's greater. It's going to stop. So it's only going to run this loop however many sheets we have. And it's going to print the name up here. So let's run this. Here we go. Oh, got an error. Out of range. What's X? Oh, X is 0. Yeah, I need to define X as 1 before we get into this loop because we can't have 0 sheets. So let's try this again. I'll type in X is equal to 1 above the loop. And now I'm going to click and drag this yellow arrow. I'm going to click and drag it up to this X equals 1 line, right? So I can click and drag this yellow arrow anywhere I want at this point because it's in break mode. What I want is I want to type in X is equal to 1, and then I want to click and drag this yellow arrow to that line, and then I'm going to come back and play it. I'm going to keep going.
So I'm getting an error when I run it. I like the stuff on one of them.
Oh, okay, what did it say? What was the error message?
Registry compile error.
Okay, let me come look at that in just a second, and we'll do a check here. What this should do is after I hit play, now that X is set to 1, it'll start at 1, and it'll go through this loop as many sheets as there is. So I'll hit play, and there we go. So I've got 10 sheets, and it prints the X is the number of the sheet, and it prints all the names of the sheet right there. So that's what it should look like. Let's do a check. How are we doing? Pretty good?
I guess what we're like, obviously we can see and visualize here,
Yeah.
like how the code language makes that.
How it actually works?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here we're starting at X plus 1. We're going to do a loop, and it's saying do this until
So we hit the number of worksheets.
we hit the number, until X goes above that. So once X is more than that, then don't do the loop. Get out of the loop. That's kind of the escape clause, right? And then inside the loop, it's going to say, okay, debug.print X. The first time it runs, X is 1. That's where that 1 comes from, up there.
Print the one.
And then it says print the name, and it's saying worksheets 1. So X is 1 the first time it runs. So it's going to go to that first worksheet, which is sheet 6 at this point, right? Because that's the first one in the order of tabs. And so it's saying, what's the name of that worksheet? Well, it's sheet 6. So that's where that sheet 6 comes from. Okay. And then it increments X, and it do events is like, do you need me for anything? I'm just going to keep going. And so it just happens instantaneously. And then it does it again. So now X plus, and now X is 2 here. So it does the loop again. X is 2. Is 2 greater than 10, which is the count here? It's not greater, so it goes into the loop. It doesn't escape yet. Does the same thing over and over again.
You started with X plus 1 outside of the do loop.
Yeah.
It'll start there, but won't ever come back to that.
Correct. That's right, because this is just going to keep adding. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Not bad, right?
That makes a lot more sense.
In fact, let me scroll up just a little bit so you can see the loop is the last word there. Great. How we doing? Carter? Nate? Jacob? You ran it once and now it doesn't like it. This workbook, worksheets 1.
Something changed. I tried putting it back.
I think that should be activate instead of active. Activate. So VATE, yes. Activate.
What are you saying? Sorry.
So take off the E, backspace the E, and then ATE. There it is.
Probably saying.
Yep, exactly. Run that. Works. Nice. Okay, so now you got a different error. Okay, now you need to add. So I forgot to add the X is equal to 1 part. So I went back and added X equals 1 because I need to start at 1. If I don't start at 1, the default is 0. And we don't have a sheet 0. So that's where that error comes from, is like, wait, hey buddy, I can't find a sheet 0, doesn't exist. So we had to add x is equal to 1 there before the loop.
Oh, yeah.
Is everything right? Or
Is it working?
I don't know. I don't know what it's.
Click inside the sub somewhere. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it looks like it worked. You have 9 sheets. Charts is your last one. Let's see, is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Maybe there's one more over there. Is there one before that? Yeah, 9. There's your 9th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9. Yeah, works good. Yeah.
Doesn't matter the order.
Good question. No, I was going to show you that next. There's a way to add it after the first sheet, kind of like what you're doing automatically.
Okay.
So we can do that next. Yeah. Okay, great. How we doing? Not bad. Did you get it?
I think so. Yeah, I deleted the chart sheet on accident, so I had to redo this.
Oh wow.
By chance. Yeah, by chance. Do you know how to like get this window project? I somehow got it to the
Over?
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, click and drag it. I think you might have to drag it down here next to, yeah. Try that. Does that help?
Genius.
Okay, got it. Not bad. Okay, great. Okay, great. Let's do one more thing on this one, and then I want to do another sub. There's a way to add the sheet. Notice how sometimes it kind of adds in the front, it adds in the back. There's a way to specify where do you want to add the sheet. So I'm going to add a little bit of code here that says, notice if I do open parentheses after this add, there's a couple of different options, right? Before, after, count, or type. I'm going to say let's do it after. And the syntax here is a little bit weird. A colon equals after this workbook dot worksheets and in parentheses 1. And this is saying add this worksheet, add the new worksheet after my first worksheet. So if I were to come over here, drag my air traffic passenger statistic sheet all the way to the left, let's make that sheet number 1. And therefore, when we add a new sheet, we're going to add it after the first worksheet. So I'll run this. Let me erase all my immediate window, drag this down so we can see a little bit better, run this sub again, and we're going to find that it's going to add a new sheet, and the new sheet is added after that first sheet. Okay, great. You added before? Before the first one? I think if you do before, does that work too? Yeah, you can add one before. You can choose to add it wherever you want, right? Before or after, and you can just identify which worksheet you want to do before or after. Okay, great. So a lot of this has been worksheets. It turns out that we can also do a lot with workbooks. So let's do a workbook sub procedure. I'm going to come down. Let me go to the top. I'll come to the bottom. I'll go to the bottom. I'll give me a couple of spaces after the end sub of the one that we just finished. And I'm going to do a new sub. So I'll type in here sub. And let's talk names here. Let's do book demo. Open and close parentheses. I'll hit enter. And now we have a new sub. So these are 2 subs. Now this is our second sub inside of module 1, right? So it's helpful to kind of delineate, here's the modules and here's the subs. We now have our second sub in the same module. So let's do the sub. Here instead of worksheets, we're going to be looking at collections of workbooks. So let's go ahead and debug.print. We use debug.print a lot in this class. The number of workbooks. And the parent object to workbooks is the application, like Excel as an application. That is the parent object. You can't get higher than the application object. Debug.print application.workbooks.count. So workbooks is our collection. And we're gonna print the count. I'll just run that. Let me clear out my immediate window, run this one, and we should have one. I have one workbook open. Does anybody have anything else other than one open? Anybody have two workbooks open? I should say two or three. If I were to create a new workbook, how many Excel workbooks, that's right, are open? That's right, you have two, so what are your two? Great, so you have the Fibonacci open and you have this one open, perfect. Nice, so that's the two, very good. Let's create a new Excel file here to use as an example. I'll do new file, blank workbook, and let me just save this as, I'm gonna save it in the same place as my file here, which is my downloads file. I'm gonna name this salary reduction proposal. If there was ever a way to spread a virus, I'm not saying you should, you know, drop a USB in the parking lot, label it salary reduction proposal, and you're like almost guaranteed that somebody's gonna put that in their computer. I'm just gonna create a blank Excel here, salary reduction proposal. I'll save it and close it. And what I want to do is I want to use this file. I want to open this file using VBA, right? So here's how we could do that. Yep, I'm going to close out that file. Actually close it, that's right. So I've created an Excel file. And by the way, this is not XLSM. This is just a regular Excel file. I just named it salary reduction proposal. You can name it whatever you want. But I created this file in the same directory as the file that I'm in, which, have I actually saved my file? Oh yeah, air charge percentage. Let me save it. Yeah, but you want to have two files, right? You want to have the one that we're working on right now, VBA, air traffic passenger statistics, and you want to have another file, just a regular Excel file. Name it whatever you want. Yep. And let's open this file. So if I do application dot workbooks dot open, I can say open a file, and this is actually going to go open an Excel file for you. Which file do I want to open? I want to open this workbook dot path. So it's saying what's the path of this workbook, right? That's a property of the object, this workbook, because it's in the same folder. So I'm saying give me the folder that I'm in currently, and I'm going to concatenate that with a backslash and then the name of the file, salary reduction proposal .xlxx. And that's going to go open that file. How about that? I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure it is. I can try it without it and see if it still works. I mean, sometimes Excel is very forgiving. So if I open this and run it, and there it is. Now it's open. So I've opened this file, and it yeah, it's not even case word or capital.
So that salary reduction proposal then is just, so we say we have the air traffic on the first file.
Right, correct.
Say as the
Correct.
other one.
Yeah, I just opened up a blank Excel. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just created a blank Excel. I named it this, and then I closed it. There's nothing in it.
Say that it's both in this folder and has that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very good. In fact, I can come up here to the immediate window. I can put a question mark, and I can copy this up here and paste it after this question mark up here. And it gives me the full path, right? It says, oh, the path is this. This is the path. And you want me to concatenate this to the end of this string, and it gives me a full path, right? So I'm telling it exactly where that file is on my computer to open. That's what this statement is down there. Yeah. In fact, there's a lot of things we can do with this question mark up here. We'll be using that a lot too this semester. Okay, so now if I come back down here and I say debug.print the application count now, we should have a higher count, right? So let me run this again. It's going to open it, and now I have two open. I had one, now I have two. Okay, great. What we can also do is we can close it. So I can say application dot workbooks dot close. What do I want to close? I want to close this file. Application workbooks, and I can, let's name this. So we'll do workbooks, and I'll refer to the actual file, salary reduction proposal dot close. And then close now is the method, right? This is the action. And I'm saying close this object. And this is a workbooks, a specific workbook file. I want you to close it. So we're opening it, we're counting how many workbooks, and then we're closing it. If I run this, it's going to open it and close it. It's going to tell us it was 1 and 2, and now it's going to be closed. Okay, pretty good. How we doing? Not terrible yet? Syntax error. My old nemesis. Let's check.
So I just hate. I didn't-
Nice. Perfect. Same folder. Perfect. This workbook. Oh, I think you need a space to go around the ampersand right there. It doesn't recognize. I think it's a little bit, yeah. And one before.
Oh,
Before and after. Yeah, try that. I know. I know. Okay, now it says it couldn't find it. Is that in the right place? Users, download, stocks.xlsx. What's the extension? Is it XLSX? To properties. Maybe. Location. No, wait. Doesn't want to show you. You can also do, if you close that one, you can do the 3 buttons there, and then do options. And this will show you all of the view, maybe. And then hide extensions. Uncheck that one. And click OK. Now it should show you all the extensions. XLSM. Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. The little things. That's what we were talking right here. There was a space, and then the.
I thought I saved it as a macro, but I put the X on.
Yeah. Branch was the opposite way. He put the X in the code, but it should have been an F. Okay, great. Very good. Let's see what's next. What we can also do, did that work? Okay, good. What we can also do is we can also create objects, just like we created the WS object. We can create an object for a workbook. And one of the benefits of creating these objects is we can use the IntelliSense, which really helps out a lot. So let's do this here. Let's create an object. Let's see, did we add one yet? We counted them, we opened and closed. Let's add one. So let's do application.workbooks.add. Just like we did with the sheet, we can actually add a workbook. So we can open and close a workbook, and we can add a workbook. And then we can figure out what the application count is then too. So I'll just drag this down here to the bottom. So I have 2 debug.prints, one before we open anything and one after we add one. But let me think about this here. We're going to open and close this. Why don't I remove this close? I'll save this close for the bottom as well. So I'll take this close and I'll put it down here somewhere. Close it down here. After we count. So that's my intent here is I want to do the count with that file still open. But yeah, we can add a workbook and we can close them all. So let's add this one and then we'll just close everything that we have open, right? So I'll run this and this should open and we should have 3. Excellent. If I run it again, we should have 4. If I run it again, we've got 5. If I run it again, we've got 6. I've got 6 open workbooks. How about again? 7. Okay, so I'm just opening all these workbooks now. Let's see if I can see them all. Here's 4, here's 3. And I got a whole bunch of workbooks open, except for this one. I mean, this is open too. And the code says, what does the code say? I've got, let me run it one more time. I've got 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 open workbooks. So now let's do a loop and let's close them all. So let's do another do loop. So I'll do do and a loop, and I'll add my do events. Let me make this a little bigger. I like to do a little bit of a indentation inside of my loops, keep track of everything. And we'll do another x here. So we need to dim x as integer. Integer goes up to 32,000, so that's plenty. Might be too much. And we'll do x is equal to 1, just like we did before. And we'll say do until x is less than 2. So we're going to actually start high and go low. In fact, instead of 1, let's do application.workbooks.count. So we'll start with how many we have open here, and we'll go down. So let's do x is equal to x minus 1 inside of our loop. Instead of a +1, we'll do a -1. And let's print the name, and let's close it. So we'll do a debug.print application.workbooks.name. So it's saying, give me the name of each workbook. And the first time this runs, this is going to be the total count, which for me is 8 right now. So the first time this runs, this is going to tell me the 8th workbook name, and then we'll close it. Let's do application.workbooks, whatever x is, .close. And then if I hit space after close, I can either save changes or not save changes. And so if I save changes, that would be true. In this case, I'll just do false. I just won't save changes. So I've opened it, I'm going to close it, and the false says, don't save the changes when I close. Please. Yes.
So then you could lose all your.
Potentially, yes. Which is why you want to save it before you run your code. But what I'm doing here is this says do until x is less than 2. What that's going to do is not close this one. It'll count down until that first one's open and leave the last one open. That's right. And that's a great point because what's the order here of these workbooks? It's the order they were opened. How about that? That's the order. So the order of the worksheets was whatever order it is listed on the the first one's at the left. But in terms of the workbooks, the order of the workbooks is the order they were opened. And so the first one that was opened here was my air traffic passenger statistic file. So that one's going to be the one that doesn't close. And that's why we did that x is less than 2. We want it to quit if x is 1. Don't run this loop for x is 1. Yeah. Okay, great. So let's run this. I'll save this and then I'll run it. Ready? You guys nervous? Yeah, you can save this file by clicking here on the save. You can also save the file over here, when you click save on the Excel file, it saves the VBA as well. So either save button will save the entire file. And then we run it. So what should this do? This is actually, it's going to add a worksheet, right? It's going to count, and then it's going to close everything. And except for this, unless you did it wrong, except for this workbook. Let's see if it works. Ready, set, go. You lost your Fibonacci. Oh, the Fibonacci was first. Oh, dang. Did you save your file?
Let's see if I
Did you save your code?
can get it.
Oh, nice. Okay, you're set. Crisis averted. Okay, so I'm left with one workbook open, right? Just to be sure, I can come up here and I could say question mark application dot workbooks dot count, and I've got one. So I didn't run any code for that. I just typed it up here with a little question mark in my immediate window, and that told me, yeah, you've got one workbook open. There's another trick. I don't know if we want to do tricks in here. Is it possible to open an Excel file without seeing it? Like a sneaky open? Like if you wanted your roommate to run this code and you wanted to open a file on their computer, put something in that file and then close the file. You guys don't want to learn that, right? No, this is starting to sound bad. Yeah, this sounds bad, doesn't it? No, there's a way to do that. Before we do that, let's see if we can do one more thing before we run out of time. We only have about 5 minutes left. Here's a quick example on charts. So we have a whole bunch of charts in this file. And another collection that we have besides sheets and besides workbooks is charts. So let's do another sub. Chart demo. And I've come to the bottom. I could do it at the top, either way. It doesn't have to be the bottom. Could be the top or the bottom of this module. Chart demo. And charts, it turns out, are not embedded on sheets directly. I mean, we see this chart right here and we think, oh, this chart is on this sheet. It turns out that there's a middleman between the chart and the sheet, which is called a shape. And so to manipulate a collection of charts, you have to manipulate the shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of objects here. Let's create a shape object, dim shp as shape. Let's do dim s as worksheet. So we have a couple different objects that we're creating. Let's set s equal to this workbook dot worksheets, and let's say charts. Let's just use the name just because we haven't used the name very much. We're going to reference that object. So this S object, by the way, this S is just a reference. It's a pointer, right? It's just pointing to the object that's already in memory. There's already a charts object in memory. We're just saying point to that object. And that's just kind of nice. So we don't have to type this in the code. Instead of typing all that, we can just use the letter S. And let's say set, let me go back up here, set SHP equal to S. It's talking about the charts sheet dot. And notice everything pulls up on IntelliSense. You got this whole menu because it recognizes S as an object. S dot shapes index 1. Which one of these is the first object? I actually don't remember. I'm not sure which one of these. What is there, 9 charts here? Which one of these charts is the first one? I'm not sure. But let's set it to 1. And let's do a stop after that. So I'm going to put in the word stop, and it's going to put us in break mode. So I've got my 2 objects here. I've got 2 sets. I'm setting what these objects are. And then I'm just going to stop the code. Okay, so if I play this, boom, we're in break mode. I've got a yellow arrow. My word stop is highlighted. let's do this. Let's come up to the immediate window. Now that I'm in break mode, I can actually run some interesting code up here. I can say question mark shp.name. You might have to, is it, need to unblock the file again?
Yeah, that's for the block. You go to the top.
Yeah, try the properties and unblock it. Yes, I think so. Is that the Fibonacci? Oh, that's the airport? Yeah, you gotta unblock it. Question, please.
So are you supposed to have companies play on that spot right there?
That's right. So when you, if I just run this, let me stop this and erase this one. If I'm in here, my cursor's in here, I click on play, and this is what it should look like, right? Just yellow, break mode. Now that I'm in break mode, I can come up here. Ellie, perfect timing. Bring that right up here. No worries. I thought that was for me. Okay, I guess it's not. I think that's the Sales Society. I'll do a question mark SHP. That's the object down here. Because I'm in break mode, I can figure out, I can ask it this object. Once this finishes, if I get to the end sub, it erases all of this from memory, right? None of this exists anymore. But now that I'm in break mode, I've stopped it. I can come up here and do question mark shp.name. And it says charge 4. Which one's charge 4? I don't know. Let's find out. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to say shp.top. I'm going to say change the top of this chart to be, what is it, 10? Yeah. And that's going to move this chart. Whichever chart it is, that's going to what I'm going to find out it is. shp.10 is equal to, wait, that's not right. What is it? Yeah, I take the question mark out. If you run it without the question mark, then it moves it. And it moved this one right here. What is this? Asia. So Asia is my SHP1, apparently. And that's my chart 4. So what we can do, just to close us out here, is we can say, if we wanted to move all of these, we can come down here after the stop and we can say, let's dim x as integer. And we're going to do a little loop here. So I want another x as integer. X is equal to 1. We'll start with 1. Do until x is greater than the number of shapes dot count on this sheet. Here's my end loop. Here's my do events. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, take the left of each shape and set that equal to whatever the left is currently for that shape plus 100. So basically I'm saying, move it over. I'm going to say I'm basically moving the left side of that shape over 100 places. And I'm doing that for all of the shapes. So this is another way that we can manipulate collections, right? I'm moving all of these shapes. So if I go play on this, it's going to move all of those shapes. Let's see, did I move it? Or just moved one? Oh, I forgot to increment. Ha ha ha, that's funny. Let's see. There's one more thing I forgot to do. I forgot to increment. X is equal to x plus 1. So it only did it for one chart because I only did one. And so now I can run this entire thing and it will go through all of them and move them over. If I run this again, it stops at the stop. I can comment that out and it will run it, and it's moving all of those charts over 10 or over 100. And then I can move it back. And I can move it forward. And that's how we go. Okay, great. We're a little bit over. Sorry about that. But this is a great start to understanding collections. Hopefully this is helpful. We'll talk to you guys next time. Good work. Good work. That's good stuff right there.